Let's go like that. And let's see, who am I missing here? Am I missing anybody? Oh, the gorgeous and talented Simply Coco is back. Please let us know what wine you are drinking tonight, because you are our official taste tester of Spaced Out Radio. Greg Moyes, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Pol Pot and the gorgeous Helena are here. Steve Edmond, good to see you, my friend. Bassmaster, good to see you. How you doing, buddy? All right, we are about 40 seconds away here. Virgil, good to have you back. And Cosmic Floor, the lovely and talented Cosmic Floor, give us a wave if you don't mind. Oh, Simply Coco is on Sangria tonight. Ooh-wee. We're going to party with Simply Coco. I need to have a drink with her. I totally do. Totally do. And let's see here. Science Bob, we got a new look here, my friend. You're on camera.
There you go, man.
I know.
You get to see all my junk on StreamYard.
Yeah. All right, we are 15 seconds away. A great way to support this show is through the Super Chat. And give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways. Hit that subscribe button if you are new. And let's rock and roll right now. Mr. Bumblefoot, take us in. Central British Columbia, to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Now, tonight, we have Science Bob Mcgwier coming on as we are looking into something very, very big. There is a big story coming down the wire here. It's coming June 25th. It may come sooner than that. Anybody who's been following the UFO field knows that there is some major news that is supposed to happen. What does the United States government know about UFOs? And every day there seems to be a mainstream media subject, story, or videography on this exact topic. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented when it comes down to it. To talk to us about it is Science Bob Mcgwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University. He is, well, let's just say, he's got his name on 20-plus satellites up in space. He's a science geek. He really is. But one of the things he loves is UFOs. And we're going to talk to him about this tonight. Science Bob, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great, Dave. Glad to be here, and I always enjoy this show.
Well, you know, I know you're coming on at kind of a last minute here, and we appreciate that. So you're unprepared. I'm unprepared, but we're going to do this thing right now because that's what we need to do here, because we got to keep a show going. And I got to ask you, you know, for people who may not know who you are, what you're all about, why does a guy with your education, your accreditation, your resume want to play in UFOs?
Well, so in the 2016-ish, let's call it, in that area, I began hearing rumors about UFOs and videos and these kind of things at work when I was still holding very high-level security clearance, and I got to see a few pictures and a few videos. So I started looking around on the web like everyone else does and watched a few YouTube videos and pretty quickly wound up saying, okay, look, I work for the National Security Establishment, and here's Richard Dolan. He's written all these books about UFOs in the national security state. So why don't I read his books and figure out what's going on? So I did. And then the TTSA came into being, and the David Fravor, Nimitz, Teddy Roosevelt videos came out, Go Fast, Tic Tac, etc. And it just seemed really interesting. And I had seen some of these pictures on videos. They're being passed around everywhere inside our community. I think that was not the plan by the people who wanted to control the message, but they were going everywhere. I mean, literally being shared all over the place. So Richard Dolan interviewed Christopher Bledsoe. And so I went back and looked at the Christopher Bledsoe videos, both the ones that Richard Dolan did and some before, and I went, what is going on? I know a lot of these national security, high-ranking people that are going to visit Chris Bledsoe. So I decided, what the heck? I'm only 3 hours from Chris, so I wrote him. I think it was Facebook Messenger. Anyway, I wrote him and said, hey, look, Chris, I'm a scientist. I'm the chief scientist for the Hume Center at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. And I would like to visit you and talk to you like maybe others have done and see if there's some interesting science we can do about all of these things you're seeing. And that's assuming they're ongoing and you don't mind me visiting. So he waited about 2 weeks and thereabouts, maybe a little longer, but anyway, let's call it 2 weeks. And he wrote back and said, yeah, okay, it's okay if you come over. When would you like to come? And I says, look, this is really close to Christmas. Let's wait till after Christmas. Let's wait till a little into January. And then if you don't mind, I'll bring my wife over with me and we'll come. I'll stay in a hotel and we'll visit and get to know each other and talk about what's going on. So we did. We went over and we spent 3 rainy nights and days really getting to know each other. And I heard lots and lots of stories, and I told him who I was and who I had worked for and so forth, and the kinds of things I had done without the specifics. And he told me that the reason I was allowed in is Jim Simivan told him, yeah, he knew me, and to let me in, it might be interesting. So I went in, and the last night we were there, the clouds cleared off and the sky was clear. So we decided we would go out and observe the sky. So we observed the sky for 5 or 10 minutes, and then a gigantic, massive orb lit up like a big flash bulb, except it stayed on. And it was as bright as the moon, but it was an orb. And it was, much brighter than Venus, but it was moving. And it moved across the sky, did a little funny dance, looked like it was spinning and changing colors, and then went off and did some weird zigzags and then went off to the north. So about then, Chris's son, Ryan Bledsoe, came out. And we were excited. We were telling him what happened, and boom, it happened again. This time, Ryan and Chris and I all looked at this gigantic orb move across the sky, do a weird dance in the sky. I claim it drew a 4-leaf clover, but anyway, it was something weird like that, and then started changing colors and then moved off to the north and disappeared. So Ryan was really excited, and he went inside to tell all the people that were inside Chris's house that we had seen something. So Chris and I continued to observe, and I noticed that there were these flashbulb-looking things going off in the top of the trees. Not over the trees, but in the trees. It looked like they were hiding behind tree limbs, but you could see the flash. And I thought to myself, boy, I really wish these things would move out into the open. And as soon as I got through thinking that, they jumped up, moved out in the open, and we saw many of these little flash bulbs go off in the sky right over us. And Chris says, wow, that was quite a show. And so I kept looking, and we kept talking. So then I began to notice, nothing happened for, 5 or 10 minutes. I says, You think it's over? And he went, no, they're still here, like he could sense them. So we looked. I kept looking up, trying to look for more of these gigantic orbs with these flash bulbs or anything else, UFOs, whatever. And I began to notice this purple aura in the sky above the trees. And it looked like the water on a lake with ripples and royals, except it was purple and smoky looking. So it looked like purple smoke right over the top of the trees or the surface of a lake. And I says, I'm seeing this stuff that's purple. And Chris says, oh, purple haze? And I says, yeah. He says, yeah, we've seen that before. When we go in, I'll show you a picture. So, and he has trouble with night vision, so he couldn't look up and see it, but I could see it clearly. So I was quiet for a while, looked at it. I said, wonder what this is about. And all of a sudden, it disappeared. And in less than a second after it disappeared, Chris says, okay, they're gone, and we can go in now. And that was it. We went in, and we told everybody what we had seen and so forth. So Chris and I continued to talk throughout the evening, and we said goodnight. We went back to our hotel, and we got up in the morning and went home. So Chris and I talked on and off for about 2 weeks about what it is we might do, how we might structure it. And I says, look, I think what needs to go on here is there needs to be a reasonable, not crazy sized project where we put together scientific instruments to observe these things that are happening near you, since they happen all the time. And we were talking, and it was a little bit slowing down. And I was trying to figure out how was the best way to proceed. So I was laying on the bed one morning, reading a book like I often do, and I got squirted by a water squirt, like somebody shot me with a squirt gun. And I thought, oh, my roof is leaking. So I looked up and couldn't find a leak anywhere. And the roof was new. It had just been worked on a month before and so forth. And so that wasn't it. So after a little while, I forgot about it. I says, okay, I can't see what this is, so I'm not going to worry about it. So the next day it happened again, and I called my wife in, and I says, do you see water on my legs? She says, not only do I see water drops on your legs, there's water drops on the blanket like you were squirted. She says, is the roof leaking? I says, I don't know. I says, well, let's call the guy that did the roof. And I call him up and says, look, what's going on? I think we got a leak. He says, a leak from what? I says, well, rain can collect up there and leak. He says, look, we haven't had rain in 2 weeks, and it's been in the 90s outside. How is there any water on your roof to leak? And I went, okay, yeah, you're right. Okay, so I didn't think about it. So one more day went by, laying on the bed. I got squirted big time, and I heard my wife in the other end of the house yelp and said, come here. So I got up, went down there, and she said, I got squirted in there like you did. They said, look, you can still see it on the floor. So that we both agreed that we had been squirted.
Weird.
So I went, okay, look, I'm going to call Chris. It says, Chris, we have brought a hitchhiker home, which I now know that's the term. We brought a hitchhiker home, and we're having weird experiences. So I'm going to commit. I'm going to do exactly what I said I would do. I will figure out how to proceed. And then we talked on and off for 2 weeks, and there was a project started, which has eventually become Sky Hub. Okay, so my wife had a year before a stroke, and it left her with right side weakness in her leg and arms, or her leg and arm. And about a week after the squirting event, I began to notice that her right side weakness was disappearing, and within a week of that, it was gone. I decided, okay, I'm going to go all in now. I made a plan for my last year at Virginia Tech. Sharon went back to her neurologist as we began to retire, and the neurologist could not find the lesion anymore. So she had this miraculous healing from being around Chris. And so I just decided to go all in. There was UAPTN, which evolved into SkyHub, which is this camera plus sensors and so forth. And that's where we got. And now we're having orbs around the house that I've caught on my security cameras. I've seen weird lights in the sky, which I can see the light on the ground. It's not, and even if it's in the daylight, the light on the ground is so bright, I can see the shadow of my truck as the light is over the house in my carport, and the sun is nowhere near the right angle to make that shadow. So this weird stuff happened. And then one day, Dave, you'll remember when I called you and I said, the entire sky went black as something flew over my house. And just Dave called me one day and said, you know, I had a lucid dream that we were taken together. I says, what, really? So I didn't think about it for a while. And then Dave hung up and I says, well, you know, there is a way to check, just as a sanity check. So I brought up the app on my phone that talks to my Fitbit Versa 3. And it monitors sleep and oxygen and heartbeat and all this other stuff, including just steps. So I looked at the sleep graph, and it said that during the night, with me having no memory of it, I had been up and around and awake for an hour and a half. And I have no memory of this. Sharon told me that she had gotten up and heard something and walking around the house, and she got up and went downstairs to see what it was and couldn't find it and came back, and I was sound asleep. So I just had no memory of this. She heard the stuff going on, and you know, I don't know whether it was the ET returning me or coming to get me or what. I'm just telling you. I don't remember it. She says something was there, and the Fitbit said that I was awake for an hour and a half that I have no memory of. So, and since then, all during the past year or two, my memories of my childhood have returned. And I began questioning relatives, friends, ex-girlfriends about things that I were beginning to remember happened to me when I was young or up till the time I was 18. And that involved seeing UFOs, learning to read miraculously at 3 years old with a vocabulary of a 10 or 12-year-old, overnight. By the time I was 10, I was building telescopes, using microscopes, had a ham radio operator's license, built my own antennas and radios. So learning to read and turning into a unicorn technically by 10, and then doing things on through high school like building my own computer when there was nobody in the town with a computer. So just was that. And then when I was 18, I was at the university with my girlfriend. I picked her up on a Friday to go home for the weekend because we went to the same university. We were from the same town. And during that trip, I remembered that we had missing time. And my remembrance was that it was well over an hour. I called up the old girlfriend and says, do you recall that whether or not we had a time when I drove home from university and we wound up in the middle of nowhere and we couldn't figure out how we had gotten there, and we were gone for a while and it's like we had been asleep? And she remembered every part of it and how upset her mother was when we had arrived home late. I told her I was sorry, we were yip-yapping and I got lost, but we found our way home. And that was clearly a missing time. And 2 weeks after that, I changed every single plan I had for my life. I went from I was going to do this to I was going to be a mathematician and an engineer and a scientist. I went to a different university and got a degree and been an engineer and scientist for the rest of my life. So it's just been a crazy ride. I had my mother told me that I had 3 cardiac arrests when I was 1 year old. Under one, when I was in the hospital, was cerebral meningitis, or a brain illness, where I had high fever. The doctors told her if I lived, I'd be a vegetable, and that my heart stopped 3 times. So I made it out of that, and here I am.
Bob, we got about 4 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. For you, when you started and you made that commitment, because you're a guy of commitment, when you made that commitment that you were going to look into UFOs, in your scientific circle, what were people around you saying?
So look, by then, we're talking like it became known that I was going to do this and retire in 2020. So by then, you had all of the evidence come out from the Pentagon, and the Pentagon had acknowledged it. So there were a mixed bag. I had people who thought I was crazy. I had people who had religious objections. I had people who thought it was way cool, including my boss who thought we ought to do stuff. And I told him what I intended to do. And that didn't work out because let's just say the membership of TTSA changed and things around it changed. So in other words, I just kept deciding what to do. And I began working with you on the show, Science Bob Show. And I'm planning on doing this really kind of tough technical work, bringing together a radar that we can put together with the cameras and sensors on SkyHub so that if the cameras notice something, we can see if we can track it across the sky and get velocity, distance, etc., so that we can have a lot more information. And the information will be objective. It won't have a human involved, and the machine will do it automatically. So we can track the thing with a radar that is easy to do and legal, and track it with cameras and sensors and so forth. And so it's just, this is a multi-year development effort to turn out something real. And I've gotten involved in technical work, et cetera, around all this. So it's just a total change of life. I retired. My companies are doing well, so I could afford to retire. And I just built a machine learning supercomputer to do a lot of the work.
With that, and your fact that you're now focusing on UFOs, as we got about 90 seconds here, why is this an important topic?
We don't know what it is. And the Department of Defense is admitting openly they don't know what it is. And if you've seen these mystery wire, Corbell, Pentagon notifications, congressional notifications, Rubio and Mark Warner and Senator Reid and others coming on the newscasts, they're saying, look, these things are flying over our ships. They're flying over our nuclear sites. We don't know what they are. We don't know how they work, and we don't know what they want. And then you've got the Chinese talking about they have now proof, scientific proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. And it's just really seems really remarkable. This stuff, and most of the world is asleep, but those of us who are not asleep and are watching can tell something is building. And then now we have, and I was very skeptical about UAPTF and the bill in which it passed, but I'm growing less skeptical and more hopeful that we will learn something big in the next month or two.
Well, we're going to see what happens because this is a topic that is not going away. It is something that we need to focus a little bit more on as we go forward with this show, because the next 3 months could see a lot of strange things happening, things that are going to affect every single person on this planet. And, you know, whether people are naive enough not to believe this story or don't want to believe it, it's something that we are going to discuss heavily on Spaced Out Radio coming up here over the next couple of months. Science Bob talking UFOs. The big question next, why now? On Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear, buddy.
The little clock in the upper left, the StreamYard thing is really helpful.
Oh, yeah, I got to change the banner here. Hold on. I forgot to change the brand. There we go. Now we good.
Woo factor.
Yeah. Yeah, the clock is, I noticed that the other day.
Yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah. I wonder if I can edit the posts. Let's go here. I wonder if that'll change that. Paste. Nice. Total. No, that didn't change shit. Hold on. We'll just leave it at that.
Dave, this looks really great. The top and bottom of the background are clips, but that's okay.
I'm changing everything here because I didn't have time. There's nothing worse, honestly, that, well, probably because we're live already. There's nothing worse, to be honest with you, than having a guest bail on you at the last minute.
Yep. That's all right. I can yap forever. And now I've got enough stories to yap.
Yeah. So, hi, Caravan of Lore. Welcome to the show. Big thank you to Murray, Blue Book, Greg, Ed, and Jeremy for the super chats tonight. Really appreciate that. Hello, gorgeous Nikki. I feel so way behind right now. Hey, Ozzy, how are you, buddy? Eagle, what's going on, man? Gorgeous Jules said she loves the color of your shirt, Science Bob.
Thank you. Yeah, I just told her hi.
Thank you, Jenny. Jenny says, Dave, your shows are never boring. I love how you acknowledge everyone in the chat, making them feel special. You know why I do that, Jenny? Just so you know, is because to me it's still amazing that anybody would want to listen. I know that sounds hokey. I know that sounds a little contrived and everything, but seriously, it amazes me every day. And the fact that you guys would give up your time to listen to us here, that just makes it all the more special. Hi, M. Coons. How are you? Good to see you. The gorgeous Anne Celine. There she is. Thank you, guys. Get some of your comments in here. The lovely and talented Brandy Phillips has arrived. There she is. We'll try and get to that, AA Ron. We'll try to get to that, okay? Not a plane. Welcome to our chat room for the first time. How are you? Thank you, Cosmic Flower. Appreciate that. Well, look who it is, everybody. It's the lovely and talented Carol Burke. I always feel the love when I come here. Amazing group of people, absolutely awesome host, and always a fabulous guest. Well, aren't you just way too kind, Carol Burke? Thank you. Thank you so much. I love Jenny's comment. Dave, this is better than visiting family. It is, because we're actually around people we like. All right, we're 26 seconds away. Great way to support this show, everyone, is if you're brand new, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell so you know when our shows are coming on, and give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs sideways, whatever you feel we deserve. And, of course, the Super Chat is open, which we really appreciate the help with that as well. Hi, Thurston Howell III. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with Science Bob here tonight. Why now is the big topic. And Bob, I'm going to tell you, over the last 3 years, I have heard so many different questions and theories as to this whole UFO front. Why is the military now coming out? What is with these propulsion systems? How can these craft get through to our installations? Everything in between we have heard. And to me, after learning what I've learned over the last little while here, my friend, it comes down to one major question. And I wrote a blog about this a couple of weeks ago, and it's 2 words, my friend. Why now? I think this is the most important question that we have in ufology today, and I don't know what is going on. What is your thoughts with why now?
I have no idea. I'm just going to tell you straight up. Look, I know why the U.S. and other governments are interested. I don't know why all of a sudden these events are happening everywhere, and they're increasingly happening around all of our ships and bases and nuclear facilities, and this is all over the world. It's happening everywhere. And I believe that we're getting this slow revelation either because our government knows something, or it can tell something is coming and doesn't have an idea what it is. Or maybe it does and we're just not being told, but it does feel like we are being prepared for revelations. You know, we had Big Jim on doing his usual, talking about SR-71 Blackbirds and his submarine books and so forth, and he's a big Trump supporter and so forth, and he told us during that show where we interviewed him that Trump had issued an executive order declassifying and telling the intelligence community of the Pentagon to release everything. And it appeared to me that if that was true, we should wait for the election. And we waited for the election, and ultimately Biden won. They had the election certified and won on January 6th. And it appeared to me what was happening was that the intelligence community and the DOD and others were waiting to see the outcome of the election and what impact there would be on the executive order by the new president. And what I think from the circumstances is that Biden did not rescind Trump's order. So it stands. It's a presidential order that appears to me Biden has not rescinded. And so the UAPTF is going to tell us stuff in this report to Congress. And I think it's things that are going to be revelatory and maybe revolutionary. And it's just, it's just all these really crazy coincidences, like the chairman of the astronomy department at Harvard claiming Oumuamua was an alien spacecraft and that aliens are visiting us. And I'm going, the chairman of the astronomy department at Harvard? And just these kind of things just keep happening and keep happening. And I'm seeing all this odd stuff around me and hearing all sorts of others are seeing odd stuff around them. And I just tell you, I don't know what it is. I don't know why now. I just know that I can tell from the pace of activity. And like Cheryl Costa's new book, I'll just give you a preview of in one sentence. Her statistical book on UFOs are going to reveal that there is a major uptick like we all knew. And so I just don't know what's going on, but something is coming.
Here's my big thing about this. When I look at the question, why now? Because I think it's the most underrated question being asked right now in ufology. You could talk technology, you could talk anti-gravity propulsion, you could talk anything you want. But the big question is, this has been a cover-up for 70 plus years, Bob. And all of a sudden, I don't buy the fact that Luis Elizondo has that much power. I don't buy the fact that Chris Mellon has that much power. I don't buy the fact that Marco Rubio or Mark Warner from the Senate Intelligence Committee have that much power.
There, I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
They do have the power, and they got a law passed, and so they have the power. They can demand information, and they got information. They had briefings.
Then I stand corrected. But the point that I'm trying to get at here, Bob, is this. For 70 plus years, we have been made fools of. We have been told that we're liars, a bunch of tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists claiming that things are swamp gas, it's a hot air weather balloon in Roswell, everything. And now all of a sudden, here it comes. So that tells me one of two things if I read between the lines. Either A, they have been contacted, not just the United States government, but a lot of governments around the world have been contacted that they're coming. Or B, we're in for one hell of a false flag. And I don't think it's the false flag. I don't believe that for a second. That goes a little bit too much woo for me to handle because that could go into some real ugly conditions. But I strongly believe, without any knowledge whatsoever on this, that in order for this to all of a sudden become priority number one for the military in finding out, we don't hear about Afghanistan anymore. We don't hear about Syria anymore. We hear about UFOs and UAP.
That in China and Russia, they're never going away. But you are correct that we seem to be preparing, and we seem to be letting out recent incidences of interactions with ships, planes, etc. And, there are all these amateurs that listen to air-to-ground and ground-to-air communications from FAA towers to airplanes. And there's not a week that goes by where there's not a UFO or a UAP around a commercial airliner that is called in. And I think when the Navy opened the floodgate to tell us reports of UAPs, they got a flood. And then there's now these incidences where you're seeing things come out of the ocean. This recent thing came out of the ocean and was caught on camera, and we've seen that's shown to us. We haven't seen a high-resolution version of any pictures. That is really what I'm hoping we see, is a high-resolution. There ain't no doubt. This is something odd. It's not a Batman balloon. It's not a lens flare kind of thing. It's not bokeh, which is unfocused lens on a bright object. Whatever else Mick West wants to get and not explain all the data. and so forth. It's just the stuff is just happening such a pace now. And I think part of the deal is the government has figured out it cannot control all these people, all these cameras, and really high equipment. And now anyone can go spend $50 and buy a processing software that will stabilize an image and provide super resolution enhancement. And so they know that's only going to get better with time. And they just understand that eventually there is going to be undeniable, irrefutable evidence, and they need to get out in front of it. And then we had Trump. Why in the world does Trump need to start Space Force when we already had a Space Force as a branch of the United States Air Force? I don't get it. There's a lot of that I don't get.
It still comes with the idea, though, my friend, that we need to be asking that hard question. Why now? Why is this going on? I mean, look, a lot of the stories that we have heard over time, if we look back and be a little skeptical of the way they're playing this up, we have known about this. We knew publicly that the nuclear military bases in the 60s and 70s were having their missile silos turned off, armed, and off by these craft. We knew it was happening in Russia because the United States and Russian government were talking about it. And yet, that was recently brought up like it was brand new news. We knew
it was like Greer never had his disclosure event at the National Press Club, where all of that stuff was brought out well over a decade ago. Yeah, I don't understand why it's being regurgitated. I think that's because they realize nobody's paying attention.
Right. So the point that I'm getting at, Bob, is this. All right? There is no reason after decades of downplaying this subject for all of a sudden them to want to play UFOs. Unless...
Well, there's a reason. There is a reason. They realize they've been lying for 70 years, and the lie is about to be exposed. And so that is a reason for slowly bringing this out into the open. And if it's the case that ET has contacted world governments and said, "Prepare your people, we're coming," this sounds like the first major step in a 5-year program until they get here. I mean, that's just what it feels like.
Okay.
If that's the scenario, that's what this feels like. Is we are being slowly prepared for the arrival.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that. What are the chances, Bob, that not only the U.S. government, but a bunch of governments around the world were talked to and made contact, and they gave a date?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't. There's no base. I have no prior probability in which to forecast odds based on the observation. I am just guessing. But this just feels like there is preparation for an event.
Okay, what kind of event is that? Let's go into detail there.
Well, it could be just release of all sorts of crap from UAPTF to the Senate, and that's come out into the public through the committee hearings and the public revelations. There's that. Now we know that the USS Kidd and 2 other destroyers went out alone, not as part of a carrier group, out beyond Catalina Island off the Pacific coast and engaged with these UFOs, which are in these pyramid videos and other things. And we now know that it's not Corbell calling them pyramids. That's a quote from the seamen who were on the deck videotaping the things with their crummy little phones. They called them pyramids. Then we have the pyramid over the Pentagon and all sorts of other stuff. I just think enough is going on that we know something is happening, and they either know that something is happening or they don't know what's happening, but they're like me saying looks like it's building to a crescendo.
It could very much be, right?
Yep. But we're doing guesswork. But look, I mean, We're applying logic and or common sense to a lots of events where military people look. I had a counterintelligence investigation open against me when I began talking about the picture which Tim and the debrief released before they released it. And you remember Tim got all upset and I thought, that's over now. But what the government found was it wasn't me leaking it. This thing was everywhere. These images were being passed, the images and videos were being passed all over the place by all sorts of people, some of which didn't even have the security clearance to see them. And so even if they didn't have need to know, they had a security clearance, so they had access. It's just they found out that they cannot control the narrative. And no, I do not braid my armpit hair.
Thanks, Bombshell Bomber, for that comment. Really do appreciate it. Bob, I understand where you're going with that, okay? I do. But we have 70 years of cover-up here. There's a lot of people from the death of Paul Benowitz, which is still questioned, right on down to the local 7-Eleven guy who's been made fun of for his entire life because he had a UFO experience. We have a lot of people over the years who've made a lot of fun of this topic and made, and hurt a lot of people's feelings, not just the government, but the public as well.
Ruined a lot of people's lives. People's lives were ruined. Okay, so it appeared to me, I think there is some truth to the claim that there was a high-powered group which was given control of the UFO problem for the United States government, a high-level commission, if you will, that was put up with presidential authority and given control. And it sounds, there are these claims that there was in this group, the group was, or the dominant people in the group were, these extremely religious people who thought all this UFO stuff was going to undermine people's faiths and so forth and so on. So it's just, and I can completely believe that given the state of affairs at the end of World War II, all the way through the McCarthy era in the 50s with the nuclear weapons and the contest with Russia, the Soviet Union, and all the stuff, and the religious fervor that controlled a lot of people in the United States government. I can believe they thought that this stuff was either demons or was going to undermine religion, and they didn't want to undermine the status of the church. So I can believe all of that. And I just think that's that level of religious control and belief inside the government is fading.
Is that due to age?
I think so. I think a lot of the people that were in control, say right after Roswell or the 1940s and in the early 50s, are dead.
I asked Lou Elizondo on this show a couple of months ago about Roswell and why we haven't gone into the past. He kind of deflected that question, as he is very good at doing. However, recently he has got into the idea and made a quote that maybe he's been given permission that the United States government has been doing crash retrieval since before Roswell. What do you know about this?
I personally know nothing, but I do know that Lou is saying stuff that there is no way he can say what he knows without being given permission.
How does that work for us who don't know?
Okay, so a request will be made to declassify material. And there will be a reasoning given behind declassifying material. Now, there's only one person who can declassify things, and no one else can say anything about it. And that's the ultimate final classification authority in the United States of America under the National Security Acts. And that is the President of the United States. That's the reason I believe this Jim Goodall story was so important when he told us, given how much I know he thinks of Trump and how closely connected he was to the campaign, that Trump said to take all the stuff and bring it out. And if Goodall's true is correct, and Trump did that, it explains a lot of the stuff kind of coming out slowly. But I just think a lot of the people that were covering it up, trying to get an advantage over the Soviet Union and China by figuring out how the tech worked without involving them and telling the world, is kind of going past us. I think that there's enough understanding now of the physics of what's going on there that we don't have a clue how it works and no hope of finding out.
Okay, so if we tie that into the conversation we were just having about people, and you mentioned very strongly that many people had their lives ruined by this. I mean, Bob, we saw people going into mental asylums. We saw people committing suicide. We saw people, losing their families, losing their jobs, losing their respect within the community. If this all turns out to be true, I mean, there's going to be a lot of people looking for some reparations when their family and their livelihoods got turned upside down by these government lies.
I don't believe we will ever get a lot of those stories behind stuff that happened in the 1940s and 50s. I don't believe we'll ever hear. We'll hear about current incidents for which photographs can be shown, and we have no idea what this is, even if we had crafts and bodies in 1947 and destroyed a lot of people to keep it covered up. They will be as if that never happened, and all that will come out will be things that happened in the last 20 years and the evidence for it shown. And we'll claim we don't have any clue where it came from or what it is, even if we do.
Is that?
We know that the government will do, in the past, not that it is now, but in the past, it has done bad things to citizens of the United States. You remember it experimented on African Americans in Tuskegee, and it had these programs where the CIA and the DIA and others fed people large amounts of psychedelics to try to figure out how to break their mind and control them, and so forth and so on. They were capable of doing bad things, and they're not going to bring all this out anymore, especially if there's truth to the fact that people were killed. They're just not going to happen because there's no statute of limitations on murder.
Very true. Very true. As we got about 90 seconds to go here before the bottom of the hour, is this why we are seeing a straight focus on what's happening with the military incursions these days?
Yeah, because you order people what they can say. You can control what they say to a large extent.
That's scary to think, because they got to try. So I'm assuming what you're saying here is the government of the United States, if we focus on that for right now, all right, the government of the United States has to figure out how to cover up all of their secrets while promoting this story. That's the argument.
Yeah. I believe that there will never be an admission without about the stuff that happened in and around the 40s and 50s. Never. Without there being an act of Congress signed by the president. And you believe they're going to give them immunity for all that in a law? No. This will never be talked about.
Is that something that happens 50, 100 years down the road when the grandchildren of those people affected would have died by then? The generations would be too far gone?
I have no basis to even guess, but that sounds logical.
Makes sense. Science Bob, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Science Bob Mcgwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University, former agent of the CIA, and one good-looking fellow whose beard I have here in the studio, and we will talk about that beard and much more UFO talk when we come back on the mighty SOR. So stay tuned. Why now? That's the question each and every one of us who has interest in UFOs needs to be asking right now. Why now? Press your government, press UFO researchers, press everybody. We need to find out. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Okay, Science Bob, I'm just going to run the pups out. I'll be right back, okay?
Yep.
Do you want me to leave your mic on so you can talk to the people?
Yeah.
All right, your mic's up.
What story, Julie? The Netflix show The Family was about the kind of people we're talking about in the Collins elite. Nicole is right. That's the kind of people we're talking about that had large amounts of control inside our government. That's a great show to watch. George, you don't really expect me to answer that, do you? Anomalous. Well, so like the stuff I heard about and saw with these videos and pictures that we have seen and that have not been shown, but I have seen, and I'm hoping they come out. Vinny, you need a psyop. Good try, George. Good try. But you knew the answer was what I gave you. Trinitro tolueno. Trinitro tolueno. Mr. TNT himself know that when I went to Bledsoe's, I really didn't believe this stuff was true, TNT. So when I had all these things happen, that's when I said, man, I'm going to put together some scientific instruments. And the stuff began to come together. But the problem was COVID. Chris has a depressed immune system, and the COVID wrecked everything. We have a shortage of high-tech equipment, and it's hard to get things together. And even with all this crap behind me, it's just hard to get stuff together. So we have been delayed. And now Chris has other family events going, marriages and so forth, new grandson, etc. And it's taken 2 years to what I thought we could get started in 2 months. So that's the deal. I'm going to make those measurements, but we have not done it yet. And I don't know anything about Antarctica, except I don't believe anything Linda Moulton House says. Antonio, I do not believe we have a Space Force already in space, but I could be wrong. Richard Dolan certainly believes we do. Miss Dill, that story is everywhere, and I just don't have any basis. I don't have any documentation. I haven't seen a video. I just haven't seen anything that tells me that story is true. I hope it's true, but I don't know that it is. Good question, Miss Dill.
All right. We are back, Bob. We got about a minute here to go.
Okay. I want to tell Lynn that there's not enough credit that can be given to her. Forget getting too much credit. She deserves a lot of credit. Yes, Justin Dolan rocks in some ways. He really does. He's an amazing writer.
All right.
And Rafaela, I'm with you.
All right. We've got just a little bit here to go, about a minute and just over a minute here. And go from there.
The answer is yes, George, I can.
All right, Bob, I'm going to get you to hold on. And big thank you to Jeremy, Ed, Greg, Project Blue Book, Ed Murray for the super chats. It's an awesome, awesome way to support what we do nightly here on Spaced Out Radio. A big thank you to all of our new subscribers who have signed up recently. We're at 11,343. I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning on in, and the love and support you show Spaced Out Radio on a nightly basis is incredible. 145 people listening in right now on YouTube alone. Absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. We're going to kick off hour number 2 here in about 5 seconds. We'll wait for Bumblefoot.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Say Spitos. Say Spitos is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight. Why now? That is the giant question as we go forward here, moving towards any sort of disclosure of the UFO UAP phenomena. Joining us from Science Bob and Friends is Dr. Bob Mcgwier, who is hanging on out. We actually got him out of bed to do this show tonight, as he was all comfy in his onesie, checking things out, reading the news, watching Dancing with the Stars. But no, here he is joining us tonight. Bob, welcome back.
Welcome back. Yes, and welcome. Happy to be here. And I was watching the SpaceX launch. You got me to turn that off.
I know. I apologize. Bob, I got to ask you, Lou Elizondo is making a lot of news recently regarding his tour of the mediums on this subject. He is now the official face of ufology in the world. I think it's not just the United States, it's the world. And just a couple of days ago, former Nevada Senator Harry Reid actually wrote a letter on his own letterhead stating that Lou Elizondo's position at the Pentagon running the ATIP program was in fact 100% real, 100% truthful, and Harry stood by him, congratulating Elizondo on the work that he has done. Why was that letter released?
To undermine Susan Goff and the people that are trying to muddy the waters.
Explain that to our audience.
Okay, so yeah, that was a little terse. Yeah, so John Greenwald and Tim McMillan and lots of other investigators have put together pieces of the story of the military interest, especially in the Navy, of these UAPs that are buzzing around our ships and airplanes. And Greenwald kept putting in these FOIA requests, trying to figure out how the videos got out and whether or not they were legit. And the releases from Golf and others Susan Goff is the press officer for the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the Pentagon SecDef's office. So she was constantly kind of telling half-truths or misleading stuff, and probably she was just giving out stuff she was given to say. But it was clearly designed to undermine Lou Elizondo credibility as well as Chris Mellon. And Lou Elizondo was blamed for taking these videotapes and getting them out, and we now know from James' movie, Fox's movie, The Phenomenon, that it was Chris Mellon that got them out. Anyway, so I felt like Reed was really upset that the Pentagon's high levels were trying to muddy the waters and harm Elizondo's reputation, and he decided to fire a shot across the bow and say, I can state emphatically that Lou Elizondo is exactly who he said he was, and it was all about repairing Lou's reputation so that people will listen to what he is saying. There is a determined group now that UAP, UFO stuff is going to come out. And there is opposition. And I don't know all the reasons for the opposition, but this is all an effort to undermine that opposition.
Okay, let's delve into that, because there is, from what I have heard from sources, a large contingent in the Pentagon and in Washington, D.C., both elected and government officials, that are still very anti-UFO, pro-religion, pro-God is all. We're a country of God. It's printed on our money, and we don't want to upset the apple cart by bringing aliens into this thing. Is that the reason why, or is it because there is a fear that the United States government, if aliens come down, may all of a sudden be questioned on a number of technologies that they have hidden?
I think there's a plethora of reasons. We'll get those people beers all over that bar tonight. I think there's a plethora of reasons, including the one you stated. But there's always the omnipresent fear that if revelations are made by the government, including the release of evidence, that some bad adversary will take what little we know and add what little they know, and all of a sudden they will have the answer and we won't. And because they understand that this is earth-shattering, changing technology, the balance of power will shift to whoever has this technology overnight. And so they're afraid. They're afraid. They're deeply religious. They don't want to undermine religion. That's the reason you keep getting these hints from the Vatican. They are holding conferences, talking about extraterrestrial life and how they will work to save them, and so forth and so on. And I just feel like there's this move towards undermining the religious control and the other people who want to keep it for secret for other reasons, so that the American people and the world understand some of this is real, because we need to know what they're doing hovering around our ships. We need to understand their motivations. What are they after? They're doing reconnaissance. You do reconnaissance when you're going to attack someone in the military mindset. And so we have to answer that question. And I just think they would rather not answer that question in public for fear of stirring up fear and undermining the society and the government and so forth. And it's just a myriad of reasons they don't want it out. But of course, now Congress has passed a law.
Have you had any conversations with people you know that we may not or even know their names about Lou Elizondo and whether
No.
or not he's real.
No. I've seen stuff long before I knew Lou Elizondo's name, and I've had discussions. But Lou Elizondo, I know an individual that knew Lou Elizondo and lived near him, but I'm not going to name him.
No, I don't expect you to.
Right.
I don't expect you to.
And you actually know them, but I'm not going to name them. Anyway, so I did not know Lou or of Lou until Lou was a public figure.
Okay, so why question his credibility from a governmental standpoint? If he is out there and he is obviously still debriefing the government, he's still very much involved as much as we know, even though he might not be a part of the ATIP program anymore. Why are we all of a sudden still trying to question this gentleman's resume, both for us in the UFO community and in the national community like Susan Goff?
I'm just telling you, there is a faction inside the Pentagon and in the intelligence community that don't want this revealed and discussed. And Lou Elizondo and Harry Reid and Mark Warner and Rubio are determined to undermine those people and get some answers.
Okay, I understand that, but I guess I'm looking for a deeper answer, Bob, that the majority of us who've never been in those buildings won't understand. Has Lou upset the apple cart because of this?
Oh Lord, yes. You would look. You don't try to sully someone's reputation unless the apple cart's been overturned.
Okay, go into detail about that.
Okay, so let's suppose someone comes out and starts talking about military operations that are going on in and around China by the United States Navy. And the Navy doesn't want anybody to know that. So you might run an operation conducted by counterintelligence people in the United States government that would do everything they can to sully and muddy that guy's reputation so the Chinese don't take them seriously. Because you don't want them to believe what this person is saying because you're trying to keep your operations covered up. This is a counterintelligence operation. Your job is to prevent the bad guy from gaining access to information, that whether or not it's from a leak from your own people or from them doing espionage in other ways. So it's just the way it works. You got to muddy the water, throw up a lot of smoke, fog, and sand to try to keep the adversaries from learning what they want to learn.
So is it about keeping the secrets of what they have comparatively to trying to figure out how all of humankind is going to come together if indeed there are aliens on their way?
Do you actually believe that all of mankind will come together if suddenly we know aliens are coming to visit us? The answer is Ronald Reagan was wrong when he talked to the United Nations. This is the most fragmented collection of countries and societies and tribes all over the world. And look, they can come down and repress us and force us to unity. I don't believe they will. So I think a good book to read, because we can't go over this in enough time, is Arthur C. Clarke's Childhood's End. And so if E.T. wanted to come down and impact the Earth society, they would take 50 or 60 years to do it. And the 50 or 60 years to do it, and they would slowly reveal themselves to us over time, like the aliens did in Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke. So what I'm telling you is we do not want to show clear-cut evidence of how well our tech works to our earthly adversaries, because that reveals how we conduct operations and how we inform our warfighters and other assets. We don't want the Russians and Chinese to know how well our equipment works. So if we start taking impossible pictures of UFOs from impossible distances, doing impossible things, and we measure it, we now have told the Russians and the Chinese how well our stuff works, and that's against the rules. So they got to obfuscate all of that.
All right, Nicole Sackage, who works closely with Grant Cameron, one of his researchers, is asking, Bob, what disinformation do you think is spreading around currently?
The latest that I can tell you is all the disinformation that's running around about Lou Elizondo. Now, do I think it is possible that some of these recently released pictures are BS? That is possible. So people may have seen me on Twitter and other places griping like crazy because these people are not asking the right questions. The right questions would resolve a lot of these issues. And let me give you an example. One of the images that I saw before I left government and interacting with government was the picture that Tim McMillan released in his big revelation in the debrief. And then people blew it up and said, it's a Batman balloon. One number would tell us whether or not it was a Batman balloon. What is that number? That is the observed distance from the cockpit to the phenomenon. If the observed distance from the cockpit to the phenomenon is large enough, you wouldn't even see a balloon. And that doesn't need to be big. So what I'm telling you is, with a few pieces of information, none of which are classified, we can figure out whether or not people calling the Batman balloon a Batman balloon are ignorant, or whether or not it's something strange. And so I'm just telling you, and I believe a lot of the stuff that's going on, the questioning of stuff, the throwing up smoke, is disinformation, and I don't know the motivation.
You know, it's funny that you bring up the Batman balloon, because yesterday, during the day, I was watching a YouTube video, and one of the things I love to geek out on, because I never got to do it, Bob, was I always wanted to fly fighters, jet fighters, especially the Canadian Armed Forces CF-18 Hornets. I always wanted to do that. And so yesterday I was watching a flight video of an FA-18 Hornet from the U.S. Navy. And they had this guy in the back seat. And about 6 minutes in, I almost sent you the video. About 6 minutes in, you know what this guy in the back seat does? He brings out his cell phone and starts taking pictures.
Oh, yeah.
And
they're not supposed to do it, but everybody does.
Absolutely. So this was on a GoPro camera where you could see him with his cell phone taking pictures. And it made me laugh because there's been a lot of criticism about that, saying that, you know, it's not allowed, and how would that person get their phone on the airplane? Well, it's easy. A flight suit has probably a dozen pockets on it. All could fit a cell phone. You know, I mean, it's not like they're going to be calling home over the Mid-Atlantic or the Pacific saying, hey, you know, I'm at 48,000 feet here flying at Mach 1.3.
They put it in airplane mode and take pictures.
Absolutely. So, I mean, the idea, I just thought it was kind of ironic that all of a sudden, you know, there's been all these people out there complaining that this never happens, so I don't believe it's a cell phone. And here on YouTube, there's a video of a guy sitting in the back seat, you know, taking photos with his...
Well, I just completely dismiss those people as disinformation agents or ignoramuses. They're one or the other. They don't know. Look, I am not telling you where, I'm not telling you when, and I'm not telling you the circumstances. But I have taken off an FA-18 Super Hornet in the back seat, and I carried my cell phone.
Oh, you've never told me that.
No, exactly.
You're a jerk for not telling me that, because
I'm just telling you, I have, and it was during a set of operations. And I'm not telling anything more than I have been in the backseat of an FA-18 where the Wizzo goes. We didn't need a Wizzo. We needed what I was going to do.
Right. All right, another question from Nicole. Do you think there is Russian or Chinese disinformation in the UFO equation?
Of course. It's because the Chinese and the Russians are going to do anything they can to confuse us and others. They're scared to death we're going to get this tech before they do, and then just take them out.
Is it a race for the technology, or to become friends?
That has been the race since the 1940s, in my opinion.
Okay. We have about 4.5 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. And yes, Jules is asking, Dave Darling is jealous of Bob now. Yes, Dave is very jealous of Bob that he's ridden in the back of a FA-18 Super Hornet. Very jealous, but, oh, Bob, these stories that you hold out on me, you know, I don't get it.
Whatever. I've lived an interesting life.
I know, I get it, and I can appreciate that, you know, but let's ask about the whole subject of disclosure. Are we going for disclosure, as we got 3.5 minutes, or are we going for confirmation now?
Well, we've already had confirmation because the Pentagon has admitted these videos are real. So we've had confirmation. They've said these are things flying around our installations and our equipment, and we don't know what they are. They are either Chinese or Russian. We don't think so, and we don't know what they are. So we've had confirmation. Now, if governments around the world have been contacted by ET, and that's going to come out in 5 minutes, that will be disclosure. 5 minutes or 5 months or 5 years. That will be disclosure.
So I'm going to get back to Lou Elizondo for a minute, because he's always dodged the Roswell question until recently. Why would he bring that up, in your opinion?
I'm telling you, given his, I can't tell you anything because of my NDAs. Those NDAs are lifelong commitments. He has permission to speak. Someone is giving him permission to speak.
Is that the Senate Intelligence Committee? Do they have that poll?
I'm not going to make a statement because I'm not sure the current authorities. I do not believe they have the authority to declassify information. They have the authority to demand you come and testify about the information. Then they are also sworn to secrecy. But the ultimate classification authority is the president. And then whoever originated the original information is the classification authority. And then it's the chain of command from that person all the way up through the president is the set of people who can declassify something.
Okay.
Somebody in that chain told Lou Elizondo he was released to say certain things. And they probably put constraints on it. But I'll tell you what it feels like to me. People keep saying Lou is an op. Yeah, Lou is an op, but it's not the op they think he is. He is the person that it feels like to me is being told how to steer the conversation to prepare us for what is coming.
Do you think he knows what's coming? Would he still be read into that?
Well, I'm going to be careful. And here's the level of care I'm going to take. You and I know that Lou has been to places where he could not get in those places and have the conversations he had without a security clearance. So someone is holding his security clearance. And he's intimated this in multiple interviews, that he continues to have a clearance. That means he's a contractor someplace.
The world just keeps turning and getting more and more confusing as we continue to talk about UFOs. Why now? The big question that we are talking with Science Bob Mcgwier tonight, formerly of Virginia Tech University, and of Science Bob and Friends that we do once a month here on Spaced Out Radio. We continue the UFO talk with Science Bob right after this. All right, we're clear.
All righty.
There it is, Science Bob. There it is.
There's a beard.
There's the old gristle right there, buddy. There it is.
It's smaller now that it's flattened into that bag.
I know. That's Science Bob's beard, everyone. Science Bob's beard in the studio. This is as real as it could be right here. Shipped all the way from Alabama to Canada. I could just imagine what the people in customs were saying when all of a sudden Science Bob's beard comes up to old Davey here. I'm sure I'm on a beard tracking list now.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what, Dave. It took a long time for that beard to get there. That thing was looked into. It took a long time.
Hey, we have a new listener in our chat room. YouTuber AIM, welcome to the show. That was Science Bob's beard. He had a big beard beforehand, so he sent it to me. You know, I don't know why. Just one of those stupid YouTube things.
You asked.
I did ask. I'm not denying that. I totally asked. You know?
Yep, I grew the beard when COVID lockdown happened, and I swore I would not shave until I was vaccinated. The day I had a vaccination appointment, I got out the razor.
I know. Oh, no. Nicole Sackett says, OMFG, I'm sending you Sasquatch leg hair now.
Oh.
Right there. That's terrible. That's terrible, Nicole Sackett. Hey, Bob, you know what? I got to tell you something here. I use Mighty Moose beard oil.
Yes, you do.
I know. Gary the Dutchman, and believe it or not, if you've been hung around enough Dutch people like I have, you know that you can't get a single cent out of a Dutchman. You know, I know one person that every time he comes over to my house, the first thing I do is I pat him down like a cop because I want to see his first dollar, because I know it's on him somewhere. But Gary the Dutchman, who creates Mighty Moose Beard Oil at MightyMooseBeard.com, sponsor of this show, he's giving away a discount for our listeners who go to MightyMooseBeard.com and purchase the beard oil. Yeah, all you got to do is use promo code SOR 2019. Go to Mighty Moose Beard. Gary the Dutchman's going to give you a deal. Let me show you how it works here. It's in one of them squeeze bottles. I'm using the winter blend because it's my favorite. You know, you just drop it into your hand like so. Oh, that looks nice. Smells fantastic. It's all natural, no chemicals. Massage it into your hands and then just massage it in. Just massage it in. Yeah, that's it. And for the ladies, I know it's beard oil, but you can also put it in your hair because it helps. It's all natural. It helps save your hair from split ends, and it smells great. You know what? I'm telling you, MightyMooseBeard.com. Tell Gary the Dutchman you're using promo code SOR 2019. He's going to give you a deal, so go check it out today. All right, YouTuber AIM, Dark Defans YouTube. I apologize. I've had a lot going on today. I do not recognize that, my friend. I do not. Hey, Eric with a K. Did you know that we are Eric with a K's fourth favorite show, people? We are number 4 in Eric with a K's land here. We are number 4. I got to tell you, I thought at one point we may be number 5, but nope, we're a solid number 4 in Eric with a K's world. Thank you for coming on in, Eric with a K. Appreciate it, buddy.
Nicole's going to do a DNA test on that beard. She thinks I'm an alien.
All right. What did hello, gorgeous Stephanie Jackson. How are you? Gnome Squatch. Dave's the foremost body hair expert, sending a bag of mystery hair now. I will give you my address. Howard S. Dave collects hair from a balding man during a pandemic. Probably glad Bob didn't get hemorrhoids during the time in question. Oh, my. Oh, my.
Oh, dear. That's fantastic, Howard. Oh, my goodness, Howard.
Oh, God, Howard. Howard, we're trying to do a show here. This is professional here. This is professional. All right, here comes the next half of the show. Thank you, Jeremy, Ed, Greg, Blue Book, and Murray for the Super Chats. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us and hanging on out. We're enjoying your time, and I hope we're filling yours very, very well. Yes, want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We give our archives away for free. Also, our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Science Bob is here. Bob Mcgwier, formerly of Virginia Tech University. Why now is the big topic of the night as we seem to be drawing closer to some sort of UFO disclosure here. We're supposed to figure out what's going to happen in the 180 days, which ends on June 25th. We're going to be talking a lot about UFOs over the next couple of months and after, because we don't know the result. We really don't. So we're going to find out. Science Bob, welcome back.
Happy to be here while we guess more.
All
Because
right.
that's what we're doing is guessing.
We are guessing, and we're doing a lot of estimating and a lot of assumptions. But let's continue with that assumption. If you were still involved with the government the way you were, would you have a role in this?
No, because this kind of investigation was not my thing.
Would you work your way in?
So I could have. But by the time all of this stuff came out, remember, I had left and gone to Virginia Tech. And so I would not have the ability to do the kind of things I would want to do as a professor at Virginia Tech.
Makes sense. Okay. So I'm going to put you on the hypothetical hot spot here for a little bit. And I know you hate this, all right, because you're a man of science, you're a man of fact. But I want Assumptive Bob to come out, not Science Bob. So we're going to, bring out Assumptive Bob to come out. What do you think happens after the 180 days?
We're going to see a bunch of pictures, a bunch of documents, a list, and I will take a look at the pictures and videos and the lists and documents and tell you whether or not it's a major revelation.
Okay. So I'm going to take this a step further. Let's go to gear number 2 here as we make the shift. The clutch is in. I'm releasing the clutch as we shifted. Bob, if by chance, and I'm saying by chance, if the United States government or governments around the world have made official contact and they have been told that there is a species coming to this planet, how do we prepare for that from a governmental level?
We will prepare as if we were about to be attacked.
Got to give me more than that, man. This radio.
I'm telling you, we're gonna get loaded for bear and be prepared as if they were an enemy, and because that is the job of a national security state, is to protect the state. So without incremental revelations and confidence building measures, which if I were ET, that's what I would do. And they're just going to show up all of a sudden we're going to prepare as if we're going to be under attack.
Okay. And I can understand that, but I guess what I'm looking at, and I hate to use the romanticism of the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Okay, but are we going to be setting up something near Devil's Tower or a place like that, or would they arrange a meeting at a place like Area 51 for this sort of meeting to take place?
If I were a smart entity and I was coming to the Earth, I would be more like Klaatu than the people that showed up at Devil's Tower. I wouldn't want to contribute to our petty squabbles. So I would not land at a government installation of any political entity on the Earth. I'd land someplace neutral.
So they're coming to Canada is what you're saying?
No, they're coming to Antarctica or something like that.
Do you think...
Maybe they've been to Antarctica before, even if I don't believe any of those stories.
Okay, do you think that there are pre-made plans in case this happens?
Let's suppose that the crash retrievals are real. Then the answer is yes. Because the only assumption we can make is that they have been here before and they're coming back.
Okay. So how do we... I guess what I'm trying to say is, and I'm using the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind as my litmus test here. Are we, or does the U.S. government have a game plan for if this happened?
The answer is yes, because that is the Pentagon's job, is to war game everything. That's the reason there's always this big stinking revelation when somebody's war game plan for attacking England comes out. What? You planning to attack England? No, they plan on everything. They make war game plans, scenario, simulate everything. They war game every kind of scenario so they can figure out how they can plan the logistics, how they can support the people that are conducting the operations. That kind of planning goes on constantly. It's at least half the job of the Pentagon is to do that kind of planning forever and ever.
All right, Jules has a question for you. She is asking, is the United States preparing to go to the UN with a resolution on contact?
If Biden is president, he will probably go to the UN. If Trump was president or W were president, they would not go to the UN. So it depends on who's in office.
What do you think of W recently going on Jimmy Kimmel and saying that he would not talk about UFOs at all?
I think he look, they try to act like buffoons when this comes up, but my opinion is they're already in. Everyone read in.
What pull does a former president have?
Nothing. He has no political power whatsoever. He has the bully pulpit, and that's it. He retains a security clearance, but he has no operational authority.
Okay. So if the aliens did call and were making an appointment to meet on this planet at such and such a date, even if it was neutral ground like Antarctica, would every country be there, or would it be an invite-only process?
That is a very good question, and I just don't have the answer. First of all, Antarctica is divided up into sectors, and the sectors are controlled by national entities, and the national entities have to give you permission to go there. You have to get major high-level permission to go to Antarctica, and you'd have to ask Argentina or the United States or Britain or Russia, etc., to go to Antarctica if you want to go anywhere.
So could we see a country like, I'm just going to throw one out here, Ethiopia or Malaysia, going to a meeting like this, or would it have to be?
No. They'd have to be under the protection and auspices of another country.
Mark is asking, Science Bob, are you intrigued by this topic or worried?
I'm both intrigued and worried. I'm intrigued because this is really interesting. We don't know what this is. And if, to the extent the government does, they're covering it up if they know anything, and they may know nothing. So it's very interesting. And given my personal experiences, I am intrigued. But having lived 3 decades working for the national security state, I can tell you it really worries me that these things are constantly doing surveillance over our assets and encroaching on them. And I keep trying to remind people that they've already conducted acts of war. The 2004 Nimitz story says that they actively jammed a fighter jet when it tried to paint them with radar inside the operating space of a carrier group. That is an act of war. And so the fleet was well within its rights to try to shoot them. Now, things flying away at hypersonic speeds in the blink of an eye, you're not going to take them out. But they were within their rights because that's an act of war. And then we learned that all of a sudden they were told, Fravor and his wingman were told, go back to your cap point and come on in. And then they started heading to their assembly point, combat assembly point, which is the cap point. And they were radioed and told, you're not going to believe this, but ET is sitting at your cap point. That means they have broken in to the electronic communications between the fleet and the aircraft, which is encrypted. That's a second act of war. These are things to be worried about. I promise you, the entire intelligence community and military establishment is crapping themselves about these things' capabilities.
What are the chances that this is technology from a country like Russia or China?
0.
Why do you say that so emphatically?
I am going to assume that we are no worse off than we have been in the past. Russia and China have agents embedded in our government as moles, and vice versa. We would know, just like they know. I'm just telling you, I don't have any current information about any of this. But if it's been like the past, we would have people inside their government that ostensibly are working for them that are actually working for us, and they would tell us.
Okay. Let me ask you this question from Alicia. But if we don't even know what they are and our best jets can't even maneuver to keep up with them, how do you actually prepare?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you when they started showing up in Bob's opinion. They started showing up in Bob's opinion when we started lighting off nuclear weapons. And I think that's because these nuclear weapons bother them. And I suspect that we are preparing quite a few nuclear-tipped armaments. And that really scares me.
How long do you think this has been going on?
Since we set off the first atomic bomb in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Maybe before. Because, I mean, look, we had Foo Fighters around the B-17s and B-29s in World War II, and so did the other side, we know now. After the war was over, we interrogated them. They had Foo Fighters too. They thought they were us, and we thought they were them. So this has been going on a long time. And if you read anything that Jacques Vallée has written, we've had these weird things going on for centuries.
Jules.
So look, there's one story which appears to have been excerpted and embellished into Tom DeLonge's Secret Machines. and that is they recovered a buried UFO which was centuries old. That's the story in Secret Machines. And if that's actually derived from something real, then maybe we have uncovered a machine that's centuries old.
Do you think we have?
I don't know. But that's certainly the story that Tom DeLonge developed into a book with his co-author.
All right. Let's get to Jules' question here. Is telepathic eavesdropping an act of war?
No, because we spy on each other all the time by other means, and no one shoots at each other about it. No, the answer is no.
All right. Ihez is asking you a question. You recently said that you are aware of Marion Rudnick. Genuine? Good place for a Skyhub tracker?
I want to take a Skyhub tracker and go out there and have a Big Mac with Marion Rudnick across the table with me and see if we can see UFOs showing up.
You had to mention Big Mac while I'm on a diet.
Exactly.
You're a jerk.
There you go.
Just saying.
Yeah, if Marion's real and that stuff shows up over that McDonald's all the time, I'd like to get Skyhub out there and capture it.
Jenny is asking, Science Bob, what do you think the aliens want from us?
I think they want us to grow up and join the galactic or universal group of entities. And I think we have this capability that we could be contributory. We have look, we will be different from them. And it's just like all things, the most interesting groups to work with here on Earth, even though they're all human, are diverse. When you have a diversity of thought, a diversity of cultures, a diversity of thinking, your thinking is not you don't wind up having as much groupthink as you do. So maybe we can help them by some mechanism. Maybe we can do physical things that they can't do because they're energy or something like that. I'm just telling you, it's if there's more than one entity and they want to invite us before we get too crazy and come out warlike to join the galactic civilization, that would actually make sense. I mean, look, that's everyone's hope, right? Is that kind of peaceful interaction that elevates us happens. Dude, I want to get on one of these things and go look at the moons of Saturn. I want to dive below the ice on Europa and see what's in the European Ocean. I mean, I want to do all that. And I hope they bring that kind of stuff to us. But is it going to happen? Probably not.
You bring up the Galactic Federation, and that always leads to a few months ago when Israeli space defense guy, and I forget his title, that's why I gave him defense guy, Haim Eshed, came out and was talking about the Galactic Federation. I was talking to somebody on the phone today who is in the know, and he asked me point blank this question, and I'll ask it to you. Why do you think Haim Eshed is no longer speaking?
Because the Israeli government told him to shut the F up. They don't play.
No, I get that, and I can respect that. But do you think it's because he went too far?
If he released classified Israeli information, he went too far.
At 87 years old, I don't think he cares.
He probably doesn't. And he probably says, okay, look, I need to get this out right now. Let me do it before I die. And then they I'm telling you, they would put him in a comfy hotel room and he wouldn't leave.
Do you think that there were other countries griping that he made such a comment, if it is true?
It depends on what agreements these countries have. There have been lots of assertions that the United States has an agreement with a bunch of nations, like all of the South American countries appear to, given all of these crazy stories about crash retrievals, allow us carte blanche to go in and do whatever we want when they have a crash.
The Lone Wanderer's Bunker is asking, Bob, do you think we should be preparing for war?
I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what I think. We are. We always war game any scenario. That is the national security apparatus's job. They are preparing to do the best they can.
Okay. If these beings, these highly intelligent beings, wherever they're from, inner Earth, space, the future, wherever it may be, because we're broadcasting everywhere, so it is wherever you may be. If these have the technology to shut down and play with our nuclear weapons, if they have the technology to get into our communication systems, if they have the technology to jam an FA-18's radar, what chance do we have, Bob? I mean, look, are we just acting tough for the sake of acting tough when, you know, a sign of aggression here on the planet, which humans are very good at doing, that may cause some major crap for everybody on this planet, Bob. If they're coming in peacefully and we're going to, you know, shoot first and ask questions later.
Yep, I totally agree. But they might, after they fend us off, put Gort out on the Washington Mall, and while Michael Rennie comes out of the spaceship and says, "You people can act as crazy as you want down here, but if you threaten to export your craziness to the other planets, we're going to turn this place into a burned-out cinder," and then Gort and Klaatu go back in the spacecraft and take off. I mean, you know, if they have the power you're talking about, they will arrange a demonstration. You F with us, and you will pay.
That's a very real threat.
Of course it is.
Because it's literally wiping out all human existence.
Exactly. But what they've said, what I'm telling you is, if the storyline behind the day the Earth stood still is how this scenario plays out, they are not going to do anything to us as long as we don't do anything to them. But if we threaten to do anything to them, and they have this automatic suppression force that they've built to keep aggression down, we're in trouble. So we probably will straighten ourselves out.
We have 1:15 left before we go to break. IHES is asking, Bob, what is your opinion on Grant Cameron's recently shared beam photos?
So both Scott and I have been able to take out of focus lenses and make those pictures with spaghetti. It's not worth bothering because it's too easily faked. Interesting.
All right. Well, we'll see where it goes. I know Nicole Sackage is not going to like that comment. She's going to be like,
it may be real. It may be real, but we can't tell, and it's too easily faked.
Very true. Very true. But there's always a story behind it. Always a story behind it. And that's kind of what we need to look for. Science Bob, we have you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio, and we're going to continue the UFO talk. Why now is the subject. You know, if you don't have an interest in any of these topics, it's time you do. And I know there's a lot of our terrestrial affiliates out there where people may be listening in wondering, what is this Dave guy talking to all this woo about UFOs? Because we're going to find out very, very soon here on what happens on June 25th when the U.S. government releases the UFO files. What they will release, we have no idea. Science Bob continues on Space Out Radio with Hour 3 next. You wound up Nicole. She's saying there's always something bigger than Grant's post. I'm just saying.
Which is true. What I'm telling you is, on the basis of what we've seen, I can take every bit of that with spaghetti in my camera. If there's something else to it, great.
All right, I'll let you talk with the audience. I'm going to run my dogs out. I'll be right back, okay?
Yep. So, Miss Dill, I got to tell you, Jack Parsons was one of the most important people ever in the aerospace community. And who knows where his inspiration came from. L. Ron Hubbard was a weirdo, and I hate that he got all involved with that guy and ultimately harmed himself, but he founded JPL, which is really important. It is flying by, isn't it, Julie? It's amazing. Aaron, there is no evidence of nuclear catastrophe on Mars. There are UAP events occurring in the South China Sea. The current South China Sea stuff that's going on now is mostly the Chinese building a base on an island to keep us out of there. Nicole Mcgwier, I don't know that there's a galactic federation. We're talking hypotheticals here. So I don't have enough evidence to even guess. But my guess is no. And I could be wrong. My buddy Vinny's been on a roll lately. Vinny, Nicole probably believes that's a blessing. Your black cat has smoked ganja weed, Bomber? Lynn Wallington is right about L. Ron Hubbard. Woo wee. What a cult. Renee, the Alabama legislature looks like they're preparing to legalize marijuana. Can you believe it? Alabama. Yes, I saw that, Miss Dill. I'm going to tell you, cattle mutilations are real. There's enough evidence, FBI, etc., that they're real, and I don't think anybody has a freaking clue what's doing it. But it looks to me like a science experiment. Well, I just don't have a clue what the motivation is, what they're after. But it looks like maybe genetic material, but I don't know. Save me a toke, Renee.
All right, I am back.
Bomber, yes. When I was young, before I got into the security business. Tiniest squish, that has been discussed in the Vatican.
Okay, Bob, we got about 1 minute here.
All right. That's good because I'm ready to go to bed.
I know. I just need a few more questions, and we'll go
Now
from there.
we're doing it's going fast.
It is going fast. I appreciate you
No sweat.
for doing this, man.
Jenny Metz. The answer appears to be yes.
All right, Bob, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. I want to say a big thank you to Rye, Murray, Blue Book, Greg, Ed, and Jeremy for the amazing super chats tonight. It's a fantastic way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. And a big thank you to everybody who has tuned on in, giving us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and hit that subscribe button. We really do appreciate it. Here comes hour number 3 with Bumblefoot.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate having you tune on in. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on KPNL, Revolution Radio, and TalkStream Live. All of our archives are free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Say Spidos. Say Spidos is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with former head of science and mathematics at the Hume Center of Virginia Tech University, Bob Mcgwier, is here. The doctor is in the house talking UFOs all night long. We're going to start off with a question from Cloudy here. Bob, how many types of different propulsion technologies do we have, and what do they do? How differently do they work?
Well, we have rotorcraft, jet engines, rocket engines, and then water, we have, propeller, screw-driven, etc., water cannon-like propulsions. But I don't know any propulsion we have where you don't have to expel something to get things to accelerate. So the things we have observed around these, in the USS Nimitz in 2004, around the Teddy Roosevelt in 2014, and around the USS Kidd, et cetera, in 2019, and other incidents, those are unknown technologies because we see no evidence of what is propelling them. We don't see any exhaust or heat, even when looked at in the infrared. So it's something strange, and we just don't know what it is.
I love this question from Tony in the United Kingdom, who is asking, Bob, my girlfriend from China reckons they live under the earth and have been here a long time. What's your thoughts?
So I answered it in the chat, but I'll answer it for the radio audience. I believe that is more probable than extraterrestrial, because right now we have no clue how they would travel from a star to here without some kind of strange warp drive. But if they're already here, they don't have to travel that far. And so then all they need is anti-grav to do what they're doing, not a superluminal travel engine. So I think it's more probable they're here and living underground than they come from another star. But again, I have no evidence. That's a guess.
Bob, when we talk about technology and the way it is, and everybody discusses this, these propulsion technologies that they are showing, okay, these craft, whatever they may be. And now we're learning about UFOs, and potentially it's going to turn to aliens. Is it so much about the technology now, or is it more about what is coming and what we need to prepare for, which means we could see fellow humanoids, fellow grays coming on this planet?
I think principally we will be working hard on finding out and understanding the technology, because if we do not understand the technology, we can't understand whether or not they have weaknesses, and if they have weaknesses, whether or not we can attack those weaknesses, because we are preparing to defend ourselves. So technology will be the top of the list, and it always has been. That's always been the reason.
See, I look at it maybe because I'm an experiencer myself. I look at it that it's about the meeting of whatever else or whoever else is out there. Is it from...
Well, that's what they want. I'm telling you what we want. What our governments want is the technology. And you just talk to Melinda Leslie or anyone else you know who has had a MILABS experience. Every one of them work with the technology when they are taken.
Do you think...
And if anybody doesn't think that is correct, go to Sedona, Arizona, and enroll in Melinda's spoon bending classes so you can learn how to do it.
Melinda will be on the show next month.
That's fantastic. I'm very happy to hear it.
Do you think aliens are already here? Walking on the planet?
According to David Jacobs, the answer is yes, and they've been at it for decades.
What about the science?
If you believe they look, I don't have anywhere near as much evidence as David Jacobs has, and he has interviewed hundreds and hundreds of experiencers and put together information that comes from each of the individuals, and they agree enough. He claims they're doing this hybridization experiment to make entities that can walk around on Earth amongst us. I don't know whether Jacobs is right or not, because I don't have any of the evidence. But a great way for them to prepare to come to see us is to have a bunch of hybrids here to help them when they get here.
What about the old rumors that the aircraft that these aliens are flying would park at Area 51, and then the humanoids would go party in Vegas for a weekend?
I have the feeling that what they consider to be entertainment is different from us.
One of the things, Bob, and you and I have talked privately about this, but I want to bring it up on the air, and that is we can't now throw out any of these rumors, as woo as they may be. We can't throw out that Vegas rumor that it didn't happen. We can't throw out the Bob Lazar story, even if Bob's story has been pseudo-debunked. We can't throw out the Betty and Barney Hill story or the Travis Walton story. Heck, we can't even throw out the President Eisenhower story that he may have made a deal with extraterrestrials trading humans for technology. This is how deep this goes for a lot of people. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, Dave, come on. You know, a lot of that is just hogwash and garbage. But there's still a lot of people researching these rumors and these stories and events as if they happened.
We can give some answers on those things. There was something major that happened at Roswell. And I'm going to tell you, they don't put that level of effort into a friggin' weather balloon falling. Something major happened in Roswell and Corona. And because they put a major operation together, they threatened and manipulated and entrapped and suppressed all the people that lived in the area You don't do that for a weather balloon. And that's their latest explanation of what happened at Roswell. So we know for a fact that a lot of these things happen because of the actions that have been taken by the government.
So do you believe then, as we kind of move forward with this topic, that any of these so-called rumors, these stories, what happened in Phoenix or whatever, that we just have to now reopen each and every one of these cases?
I don't think we have. I don't think we have the ability to reopen them. I think what we can do is take on and discuss and study to the extent possible the cases for which evidence is given to us. That's because we're just going to be doing guessing like we've always done about anything else. If the government gives us evidence about cases, we can do what we might be able to do. We'll see what we can do with the evidence they give us. My guess is it's going to be wow and not actual materials.
Okay, let's get to Shar's question here. Why do you say peacefully, Bob, when these aliens have been doing experiments on people?
I didn't say peacefully. I did not say peacefully. And if what David Jacobs claims is true, their intentions are not peaceful. And if the people inside the national security apparatus in our country and others believe because of their own evidence, those things which David Jacobs is telling us, they are preparing for war.
Let's go to George's question, who is asking, do you believe Bob Lazar's story?
You know, I believe enough people around Bob Lazar that there is some element of truth to what Lazar said. I don't believe the element 115. He may think it's element 115, but I don't believe it's actually element 115. I believe he might have seen a material that he cannot control. S4 is a real place. And we've known that since the Lazar story came out. And how do we know that? Because George Knapp is an awesome investigative reporter. And he caught a publicity officer off guard, person off guard, called up the Nellis Air Force Base and asked about S4, and they admitted it existed. I mean, so we know a lot of stuff. We know enough stuff around Lazar to know it's true. And then we know the following. We know the following. For weeks before Lazar jumped out and ran and hid, that he took people out to Area 51 showing that he had detailed knowledge about the experimental work that was going on. Because he would say, okay, about 9 o'clock, we're going to be out there, and these UFOs are going to fly up. And John Lear and others took videos of them. There is enough evidence to say that Bob Lazar knew something about that place. Is everything that Bob Lazar told us true? I don't believe everything he told us is true.
What do you think he's lying about?
I'm not even sure that he's lying. He could very well be mistaken. His bona fides as a high-level physicist are crap, which is what drove Stanton Friedman crazy. Is because everywhere they went, he took a class or two maybe, but he was not a deeply enrolled and practicing student of physics or engineering. But he did do work. I do believe he actually worked there because he knew the classified schedules that he had to have seen inside, or someone brought it out and showed it to him. One or the other, there are enough elements of truth in Lazar's story to believe it's worth investigating. Do I believe in element 115? Well, Knapp and what's his name claim that they know about it, and Knapp has seemed to have implied he knows basically where it's hidden. And if it's true, I hope before Lazar dies that we get access to it so we can test it. I think Sarfati's full of crap.
I didn't even know you noticed that. I don't even know you noticed that. All right. Let's get to George with a follow-up. You all see that Amazon is testing hand recognition devices like Lazar described, though. I mean, there's a lot of truth.
There is indeed. And I'm not saying everything that Bob says is a lie. I'm saying he says enough stuff that's just really hard to get that I don't believe some pieces of it. But there's enough stuff that's proven. Look, Goodall went to the Pentagon with Bob Lazar's pay information and got himself reamed out by a 2-star admiral for ever even bringing it up. And so Goodall knew that it was true. So his pay from EGE, his ability to know the schedule of the tests, and John Lear and others going out there and seeing it in video, and it says Bob Lazar has elements of truth to his story. I don't know how much of it's true.
Nikki is asking, why would the government search Lazar's home or other buildings?
We know the answer to that. Ostensibly, he sold material to a person who was attempting to use it to poison someone. Now, that's the story. Whether it's true, I don't know.
All right.
And Bob was unwitting.
All right, let's get to Antonio's question. A little bit off topic from the Lazar story. Bob, if ET has contacted the government and said, we are coming, and the government says, hey, hold on, we're not ready for this yet, and ET says, tough, we are coming anyways, surely that can't be good.
Well, and they may think there's nothing our government can do, so they're coming anyway. And if I were them, I'd land in Central Park because they're not going to blow up the New York City.
It's not going to be like Independence Day.
No.
Bob's going to be partying with the Greys at Caesar's Palace in 2026, just so you know.
I want the Greys to come take me and give me a waking ride.
Question from Ihez. Bob, I believe the Bledsoes are genuine, but I always wonder why the footage is so poor. Is that deliberate? Why no good equipment? Only short clips, low res?
Because that's what they've got. That's the reason for trying to take stuff out there that's delayed by COVID. I don't want shaky videos. I want high-res videos where I can do artificial intelligence enhancement to the videos, stabilize them, make them high-res, gather spectral information and other data so that there's no doubt left when we're done. And Chris phones things with a handheld camera, and his hands shake. He has arthritis, and he can barely hold on, and his hand shakes like that. And he's just doing the best he can.
Joe in California is asking, how many times has Science Bob fallen asleep during an interview?
At least two. Joe, you have aliens.
Yes, he does have aliens. Yes, he does. You know, he never admits it, but he's got some serious aliens going on. Serious aliens. Big Pickle is asking, wouldn't the aliens arrive on each of the continents of the world to show themselves, not just in the USA?
They got to do something like that. I agree that that's more likely.
I can't wait to see how the media reacts.
About like they do in the other movies where they just show up.
Probably.
We'll all go crazy and act like idiots.
Probably. Now, Bob, we got 5 minutes left. And the other day you had an amazing, strange encounter at your house. Tell us about it.
Okay, so I was sitting in my recliner watching television, and my security cameras went off. And so I brought up my cell phone, clicked on my app, and saw that the front door camera had alarmed. I clicked on the front door camera, and there for 20 minutes, I watched 3 orbs in a triangle moving around. And so in these videos, you can see bugs flying around, and you can tell, hey, these things aren't bugs. Those are bugs. These are not bugs. So I kept getting what I feel was, whether it's a feeling or whether a thought was being projected, of something like, be prepared. So I decided I would go outside to see if it was something weird on the camera or whether something was actually out there. So I went outside and turned the corner, and as I did, they took off and disappeared into outer space in under a second.
Did they shoot up?
Straight up.
Now, how big were these orbs?
About 3 or 4 inches across to the camera and to my eye. But I've looked at these videos, and there looks like there's something ephemeral or hidden that's in the center of the orbs. So I'm not sure there's not something solid inside these orbs, but these orbs are pointing out the edges. It's weird. It's really weird. You've seen the video. It's weird.
I have seen the video. And
so has Nicole.
And I guess what I'm saying, like, for you, I mean, do you think that this was some sort of anomaly, or do you think this was some sort of contact?
Oh, I think it was contact. Why would I hear be prepared? That's contact if I'm getting information. And I'm not imagining it. But look, I mean, I sit in my, for months, things have been flying by my window that look like those orbs I saw in the pine trees with Chris Bledsoe. We've been having these things happen all the time. This is the first time they go, you're not paying attention. Let me show you for real. And then with the message, be prepared. And I don't know whether it's be prepared to take a trip or be prepared for us coming or whatever. I hope I get to take a trip.
Well, when do you think, what's your feeling? When's it going to happen again?
I don't know. I literally don't know. I don't know when these things are happening. I just have enough security crap around my house that when they happen, I get to see it. That and you and Nicole also both know that others think interesting things happen here. That's because they've put cameras around my house, and you and others who are listening to this show have helped me find them.
Well, we do our best.
Yeah, exactly.
We do our best, my friend.
If ever I doubted remote viewing, I don't doubt it anymore.
Wow. Very interesting, Bob, tonight on a big show about why now. When do you think we're going to see anything before June 26th or 25th? You got 30
I believe
seconds.
there's going to be a rolling wave of release of stuff until June 25th to prepare us for, and if we see a rolling wave of releases, you can bet June 25th is going to be an explosion.
Interesting. Science Bob, I want to say thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Absolute pleasure to have you here. Really do appreciate your hard work in keeping us up to date on this field from a different standpoint than what we normally get. Really appreciate it, my friend.
That was great. Glad to be here, Dave.
Science Bob. He'll be back with Science Bob and Friends in a couple of weeks here. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire. We have the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this. Potted down the wrong one. Oops. Thanks, Bob.
Bless you, buddy. I'm going to go ahead and take off.
Yeah, you go.
All right.
I'll get you out of here too. All right.
See you guys.
There we go. Science Bob. All right, I got to get the news ready here. Thank you. And, I know there was, I just want to say this to our YouTube audience especially. Okay, I'm not looking for sympathy or anything like that, but when I have a guest who doesn't show up like we had tonight, when it is getting close to showtime and I'm putting the tweets out for the show, and all of a sudden I am scrambling on social media to find a fill-in guest so you don't hear me speaking for 3 hours. Please, I know the majority of you, like 98% of you, will understand what I'm saying, okay? But Bob did us a big favor tonight and bailed us out. I'm not one of these shows that's all of a sudden going to put up there and say, hey, our guest canceled, so we don't have a show tonight. I will never do that. Never. Because we're here every night, as you know. So I apologize if I get a little pissed off and testy when someone starts ripping me a new one about my guest when we had nobody. Nobody. And, that's all I'm saying. Okay? I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for, pats on my head or anything like that. What I'm trying to do is get you guys a guest. And it may be a repeat guest. But when you're down to literally, I called Bob 17 minutes before showtime. We were totally unprepared, had nothing planned for this show. Because we were supposed to be talking about the Nazca lines tonight. Supposed to be. And for whatever reason, our previous guest decided, or I shouldn't say decided, that's wrong. Okay? But our previous guest could not make it. We got to find out why. That's Corin's the booking jobs guy. Or Corin's the booking job. Corin's the booking guy's job. Okay? And Corin's will come down and he'll get the answer because, Corin's takes this personally. As he should. Because he's damn good at what he does. Very good at what he does. But, it's just I don't know. I get fired up when people get pissed off like that. It's, and I'm like, I'm damned if I do, and I'm damned if I don't. So, oh well. Shit happens. And that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, usually there's, when a guest bails, there usually is a logical explanation. No, Vin, I'm not talking about you, by the way. Not talking about you, Vin. But, I mean, sometimes you just don't have a choice. The show must go on. And, Vin, if I was talking about you, I would tell you. So, Either way, I'm happy with it. I may actually leave after the show because I am craving some of those burritos from 7-Eleven again. And I didn't go last night. But I'm off tomorrow, and I haven't had a cheat day in a while. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, we got to get to Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. We do. Where's the theme song? There it is. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the sad. Yes, sadness. Michael Collins, the NASA astronaut who was the command module pilot for the Apollo 11 mission to the moon, has died at the age of 90 after battling cancer. His family shared the news after his passing on Collins' Facebook page. We regret to share that our beloved father and grandfather passed away today after a valiant battle with cancer. He spent his final days peacefully with his family by his side. Michael always faced the challenges of life with grace and humility, and faced this, his final challenge, in the same way. We will miss him terribly, yet we also know how lucky Mike felt to have lived the life that he did. We will honor his wish for us to celebrate, not mourn, that life. Please join us in fondly and joyfully remembering his sharp wit, his quiet sense of purpose, and his wise perspective, gained both from looking back at Earth from the vantage of space and gazing across calm waters from the deck of his fishing boat. Our family asks for privacy during this difficult time. Details on the service will be forthcoming. NASA, where Collins spent 7 years of his career as an astronaut, also released a statement about his passing. Today, the nation lost a true pioneer and lifelong advocate for exploration in astronaut Michael Collins, said acting NASA Administrator Jim Jersick. As pilot of the Apollo 11 command module, some called him the loneliest man in history. While his colleagues walked on the moon for the first time, he helped our nation achieve a defining milestone. He also distinguished himself in the Gemini program and as an Air Force pilot. Michael remained a tireless promoter of space. Exploration is not a choice, really, it is an imperative, he said. Intensely thoughtful about his experience in orbit, he added, "What would be worth recording is what kind of civilization we Earthlings created and whether or not we ventured out into other parts of the galaxy." His own signature accomplishments, his writing about his experiences, and his leadership of National Air and Space Museum helped gain wide exposure for the work of all the men and women who have helped our nation, the United States, push itself to greatness in aviation and in space. There is no doubt he inspired a new generation of scientists, engineers, test pilots, and astronauts. NASA mourns the loss of this accomplished pilot and astronaut, a friend of all who seek to push the envelope of human potential. Whether his work was behind the scenes or on full view, his legacy will always be one of the leaders who took America's first steps into the cosmos, and his spirit will go with us as we venture towards farther horizons. And Buzz Aldrin, by the way, former astronaut and lunar module pilot of the Apollo 11 mission, shared his sadness. Dear Mike, whenever you have been or will be, or wherever you have been or will be, you will always have the fire to carry us deftly to new heights and to the future. We will miss you. May you rest in peace. The eyes of the world may be fixed upon Mars, where last week alone the Ingenuity helicopter took flight and the Perseverance rover made oxygen, but farther, much farther, Voyager 1, one of the oldest space probes and the most distant human-made object from Earth, is still doing science. The probe is well into the 4th decade of its mission, and it hasn't come near a planet since it flew past Saturn in 1980. But even as it drifts further and further from the dimming sun, it's still sending information back to Earth, as scientists recently reported in the Astrophysical Journal. For decades, Voyager has been sailing away around 11 miles every second. Each year it travels another 3.5 AU, which is the distance between Earth and the Sun, away from us. Now, it's sending messages home even as it prepares to leave this solar system behind. There are multiple ways to think about the edge of a solar system. One is a boundary region called the heliopause. That's the frontier where the solar wind, the soup of the charged particles continually thrown off by the sun, is too weak to hold off the interstellar medium, the plasma, dust, and radiation that fill the bulk of space. When Voyager 1 left Earth in 1977, nobody was really certain where the heliopause was, according to Bill Kurth, an astrophysicist at the University of Iowa who has been working with Voyager 1 since before it launched. Some scientists, then, even thought the heliopause was as close as 10 or even 5 AU around the orbits of Jupiter, which Voyager 1 passed in 1979, or Saturn. In reality, the heliopause is around 120 AU away. We know this partly because Voyager 1 crossed the heliopause in August 2012, a whole 3.5 decades after it departed Earth. That puts the probe well and truly in interstellar space. Out here, space is filled with interstellar medium, but you will not see very much of it. A cube of air at sea level on Earth contains more than 1 trillion times as many molecules as an equal-sized cube or even the interstellar medium's densest parts. That region that Voyager 1 is traversing is sparser still, and for most part, it's very, very quiet. That's until the aliens run into it, and they say, hey, what's this primitive technology? Let's check it on out. Oh, you know you want that to happen. I do. Can you imagine being an astronaut and being told that you were about to collide with a UFO? According to reports from NASA, a SpaceX rocket came close to colliding with an unidentified flying object. The team, made up of Megan MacArthur, Shane Kimbrough, Tom Pesquet, and Akiko Hoshide, was formed by the United States Space Command about a possible collision with an unknown object. NASA decided to inform the crew because there would not be enough time to carry out an evasive maneuver, as explained by the U.S. Space Agency. For this reason, the team donned their pressurized suits as a precaution. Fortunately, there was no collision, as the unidentified object was 45 kilometers from the spacecraft, and the spacecraft finally reached the International Space Station on April 24th for the Crew 2 mission. Could you imagine? That would have been freaky. It's nice that they acknowledge that it's an unidentified object. Does that mean space junk? Could very well be. But you know us around here. It's always aliens. Oh, yes. It's always aliens. Sticking with space, making incredible use of recent advances in space travel technology, the production company Aerovolino Entertainment and the startup Space 11 just announced the creation of Galactic Combat, a new format of mixed martial arts fighting that will take place in space with zero gravity. Despite sounding unbelievably metal, it is a bizarre plan, questionable odds of success. As Space News senior writer Jeff Faust highlighted on Twitter, Galactic Combat will take place on a specially designed spacecraft with a built-in fighting capsule as it orbits the planet every 90 minutes. Most of the completion seems to be focused on training for fights more than it does the fights themselves. I got to admit, I would be a sucker and pay money for this. The announcement explains that 32 of the 40 competitors would be eliminated over the course of a training program that uses components of astronaut training regiments to prepare fighters to battle in zero-G. Those final 8 will duke it out for a spot in the grand finale, which will supposedly take place in the specially designed fighting spacecraft. The sheer spectacle of this combat and zero-gravity entertainment and environment will make for a can't-miss viewing experience that will truly be groundbreaking and represents what Space 11 is designed to deliver audiences eager to seeking the limits being pushed. Creator Andrea Iravolino said in an announcement, a format that requires the most unique training and delivers the most exciting new sports competition will serve fans well. And of course, she says, we are fully committed to the tested technologies and scientific data that we will know will provide the safest experience throughout the process. MMA in space. I'm serious. I would pay for that. I would totally pay for that. Who doesn't want to see a good brawl? Get Muk the alien to take on Carl. The winner of Muk and Carl takes on Diego Sanchez or whomever. Because you know Diego Sanchez is probably going to be there. He follows us on Twitter. Fan of the show. How cool is that? Former UFC champion. Okay, here's a weird one. A schoolgirl has received an incredible outpouring of support on social media after her mom revealed that her art teacher told her that her painting was wrong. Gemma Layton, mom to 6-year-old Edie, posted a photo of her daughter's artwork on Twitter, explaining what had happened. So the tweet goes, my 6-year-old daughter painted this amazing scene at an after-school art club. Her art teacher told her that she had done it wrong. You can't do art wrong. She was so upset as art is her favorite thing to do. Can you please show Edie some support and like her painting? Well, up to date, 144,600 have told her that it's fantastic. She wrote, my 6-year-old daughter painted this scene. Yeah, I just read that. All right. Yeah, support the painting. And although Edie's art teacher wasn't too supportive, the little girl's painting has caught the attention of more than 144,000 people on Twitter who've liked the tweet. She has even had kind words for some famous faces, not least Super Nanny Joe Frost, esteemed artist Grayson Perry, and singer-songwriter Kimya Donson. Joe Frost wrote, Edie, it's me, JoJo. I just wanted to say many people like to have a say about artwork, but what's most important is that you like it and keep doing your artwork because it feels good for you. Bravo. P.S. I like it, by the way, and I love your trees. Grayson Perry, wow, Edie, I love your painting. You can join my art club. Gemma said that Edie is made up with the love she's received on social media, and she's even decided to make her own Etsy shop. Here we go. Now we're going to capitalize on the young girl for getting sympathy on Twitter. There we go. With the proceeds, of course, going to charity and a Twitter account to post all of her artwork. Gemma said, this has meant so much to my little girl. She is absolutely thrilled with all of the support and encouragement she has received from across the globe, and also happy that we can help others through art via Create Charity and the Twitter account at Edie's Art Space. I got so much to say, but I'm just going to button my lip. Criticism is good. Not everything is fair. Criticism is good. It helps. It defines. We're not all winners on this planet. We got to learn how to lose too. I'm not saying the teacher was right, because I agree that art, you can never go wrong with art. Sure, there's different styles. Sure, you can butcher someone's faces. Look at some of the horrible tattoos out there. Okay? But maybe the kid did do it wrong compared to the way the teacher wanted it. And the teacher's going to look like a fool now. But we're always looking for sympathy points. How about we just learn from the experience, man? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just a jerk. Police and animal control officers were called to a bridge in Texas to remove an unusual traffic hazard. What was it? An alligator sunning itself right in the middle of the road. Gotta love Texas. The Harris County Precinct, the Baytown Police, and the Texas State Police animal control officers responded late in the morning on Wednesday to reports of an alligator blocking Highway 14 traffic on the Fred Hartman Bridge. Responders said it took 5 officers to wrestle the gator and push it back into the water. They bound it with tape, loaded it into the pickup truck. The gator, fighting it all the way, was transported to the water under the bridge, set free. The LaPorte Police Department said alligators have been known to wander into the road in the past, but Wednesday's incident was the first time in recent memory that one of the animals has been seen on the bridge. Good for the alligator, trying something different in its life for once. A Virginia schoolgirl and a Girl Scout council is offering a unique spin on contact-free cookie delivery. You know what? This is what it's come down to. Look, I'm not a COVID denier at all. But when we have this crap happening, we are doomed. Absolutely doomed. The Girl Scouts of Virginia Skyline Council have teamed up with Wing, a subsidiary of Google parent company Alphabet Inc., to offer a drone delivery service for Girl Scout cookies in Christiansburg. Even with loosening COVID restrictions, the traditional method of selling cookies outside the grocery stores or shops is difficult this year. Sales are down by 50% from prior years, Leah Wake said. It was a natural fit to partner with the Girl Scouts to help out the situation. Okay, I'll give it that. I will. How about getting the little girls to go door to door? Okay, everybody knows that they're coming. We're all waiting for them damn cookies. We only get them once a year. Look, I understand COVID. I do. It's everywhere. A little COVID here, a little COVID there, under your chin, maybe under your foot, whatever. All right? But these are Girl Scout cookies, man. This is a level of importance. Get those girls off their butts, put their runners on, put their masks on, get them to the door. We need those cookies, not by drones. We want to support the kids, not Google. Thought of the Knave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air, because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Knave is as follows. In your opinion, what were the Nazca lines created for? Let's go to Dirty Filth. Carl's youthful vandalism. He got a whooping from his mom when she found out. Dr. Lisa Gallino. From what I've been told, they were created to help remind people that there are eyes in the skies. It's to remind us that we are valued by our ET neighbors. Mike in Manitoba. Aliens never had an Etch-a-Sketch. Love that one. The Naturalized Citizen. It's getting a lot easier to believe there are runways and GPS lines marking directions of Earth's surface. Perhaps they use plateaus as parking lots for A, large ships, the gods live on the mountain, or fleets of smaller ones. 13 Ballads. The hummingbird, monkey, and other animal figures tell me it's an artist doing it for the sake of artistic expression for the ages. Even back then, they probably guessed that sooner or later, mankind would take to the sky. No need to have an alien or deity around. Okay, sounds good. Let's go over here. Dave Altman. They're used as a T-Mobile hotspot. That's funny. Jeff. Perhaps an offering to their gods, depicting what they see and need. Perhaps each geoglyph was a representation of something they wanted from their gods, meaning spider for water, legs looking for canals, monkeys for fertile soil or crops because of being gatherers, Not sure, just a thought. Joe's Maine. Ancient graffiti designed to drive people into the 21st century insane. Scott Varden. For Nazca? Who else? They were his lines, and why else would they call them that? Dave. The alien had completed a job here and left their address as to where to send the payment. Joshua. To honor the gods and provide a landing strip at the same time. Who knows? I mean, where the lines were made, there could have been highways of spacecraft at that time, and we would never know. The Earth is much older than what we think, in my opinion. Major Lee. Ancient do-it-yourself wallpaper promotions. I heard the monkey print was a bestseller. Very nice, Major Lee. Very nice. Penman. Paleolithic entertainment for visitors from space. Captain Shirk. Travelogues by off-worlders for those who visited Earth in the future. They left records of what to see, interesting bits of information, and recommendations. And of course, they were also able to find Captain Shirk's eyeglasses, which were resting on top of her head once again. Aussie Rob has a nice set of ham hocks on him. He gets the final word. So the cars could go around and around and around and stay inside the lines. Want to say thank you to everybody who participated in the Thought of the Dave on Twitter and on Facebook. We really do appreciate you guys doing that, man. It makes for fun entertainment during the show where we get an audience opinion, and we absolutely love doing it. Big thank you to Captain Shirk for getting together our SOR news wires. That's what she does, and she is fantastic at what she does. And, you know, even though she wants to slap me around every now and again, I'm okay with that because that's Captain Shirk, even though her glasses are sitting on top of her head. Yes, they are. She always forgets. And, of course, to Science Bob Mcgwier for coming on in talking UFOs. Why now, people? If you're on social media, hashtag why now. It's the most important question that we have with UFOs.
While most reported hospital-acquired conditions are declining in the U.S., pressure injuries are on the rise. Approximately 60,000 Americans die each year from pressure injury complications, leaving frontline workers devastated. Pressure injuries don't have to be so overwhelming. There's a new way to reinforce pressure injury prevention, and there are products that perfectly fit the new guidelines to help improve outcomes. Learn more at partnersinprevention.com. Brought to you by Smith & Nephew. While most reported hospital-acquired conditions are declining in the U.S., pressure injuries are on the rise. Approximately 60,000 Americans die each year from pressure injury complications, leaving frontline workers devastated. Pressure injuries don't have to be so overwhelming. There's a new way to reinforce pressure injury prevention, and there are products that perfectly fit the new guidelines to help improve outcomes. Learn more at partnersinprevention.com. Brought to you by Smith & Nephew.